They say time flies when you're having fun. And whether you are actually having fun or not, time definitely flies. Sometimes that realization kicks in when I look at game releases. I think back to a game, for example because you're playing the sequel, and then you can't believe how long ago something actually released. The Outer Worlds is exactly one of those realization moments. Back in late 2019, Obsidian surprised everyone with the release of the first Outer Worlds. A game that was somewhat smaller in scope and more confined, but it was fun and a great game. It was especially painful that Fallout, a franchise with which Obsidian had earned its fair share of accolades, had failed miserably with Fallout 76 that year.
16 times the detail.
And that is precisely why I was hyped for the Outer Worlds 2 when it was announced. But when I started the game last autumn, I did have my doubts. Obsidian didn't exactly get a W with Avowed, which was released earlier last year and didn't leave a great impression on me. In fact, it was one of my biggest disappointments of last year. So I went into this game with somewhat tempered expectations. But was my fear justified? Let me tell you right here, right now.
A rhetorical question. I already know. Just making conversation.
The Outer Worlds 2 is set in a galaxy named Arcadia. The story begins when you, as the player, are sent to Arcadia by the Earth Directorate faction to investigate mysterious rifts. You do this alongside your team, and someone in the team is named Augustine de Vries, who eventually goes her own way and completely destroys the station that you are infiltrating, and with her actions, she kills almost your entire team and leaves you to barely escape in a cryopod. And after many years floating around in space in deep cryosleep, you are rescued by Niles, one of your teammates who also barely managed to survive the mission. And it turns out that De Vries has also survived it as well, and so your mission begins to hunt her down, alongside with closing the rifts that keep popping up all over Arcadia because of her actions.
De Vries. Would have been better if she joined the dead.
You do all of this on the various planets in Arcadia, meeting the necessary characters, factions and potential recruitable companions along the way. But to be honest, I have to say that I really struggled to understand everything and follow exactly what motivated each faction and how everything was tied together. And as a result, I found the story messy and difficult to follow at times, which detracts from the effort put into it. Because there really are interesting and unique characters, events and factions that you can all explore and utilize, provided if you have the right skills and make the right choices. There is also plenty of humor, even in the menu, with Moonman giving snarky comments with a bit of a Bioshock vibe.
De Vries rip a hole in the universe because she hates her job? The Earth Directorate needs to invest in a suggestion box.
Oh, snarky.
But you will also encounter plenty of humor in the many quests and side quests.
If I understand correctly, they're having something of a workforce issue. Don't know rightly what you call it. Workers are, well, asking for things. It's strange. They've stopped working. The workers there simply stopped.
They expressed, and I know this is going to sound more than a bit strange, dissatisfaction. And they said they won't return to work unless things at the plant improve.
Specifically, they stated, until we meet their demands. As though employees have a right to demand anything of their employers.
Well, your boss sucks.
What also makes the story cool is that the choices that you make really have an impact. For example, you can destroy entire cities and, when you choose not to help a potential companion, they might not leave the city in time and therefore can never be recruited again because they are buried under a thick layer of rubble. But you can also turn certain factions and companions against each other, which sometimes causes them to be angry with you.
What happened back there? We had her cornered, bullets chambered, justice within reach, and you just let her go? What am I supposed to do with that? How am I supposed to trust you the next time a tough choice has to be made?
And you see that certain factions can be subjected to enormous stereotypical discrimination.
However, he said nothing about admitting questionable allies. Cultist. Agitators are not permitted inside Laplace's garden. Your companion will have to wait outside.
It is all the more unfortunate that the story was too often too difficult to follow and therefore never reached its full potential for me. And that is a real shame.
That's a shame.
The gameplay is what you can expect from the Outer Worlds 2. It is a first-person RPG with classes, skills, perk points and the choice to select and upgrade weapons and armor and fully customize your own character. And those skills in particular have massive impact on your playthrough. For example, not being able to open a door if you don't have enough hacking skills. But there are also truly important story moments that, when you lack the skills, or background cannot be used in your advantage.
I see we have an ideological fellow traveler. Why, this is a nice surprise.
The combat works properly. Shooting works fine and there is the necessary variety in weapons and modifications. Where I find the combat a bit weaker is, however, in its repetition. The enemies are nothing more than bullet sponges, and especially with non-human enemies, who are at least vulnerable to headshots, you really have to unload entire magazines into them before you can get a kill. And if you choose not to upgrade your character like a tank, the combat feels at times really unfair and frustrating. The companions also offer relatively little advantage in combat. They do have some skills, but the cooldowns take fucking ages and the effect isn't exactly something to brag about. Additionally, your playstyle influences randomly generated traits, which are called flaws in this game. Depending on how you play, these pop up at random moments and always give you a great advantage, but at the expense of something else. Like this one, where I received an extra skill point per level, but for the rest of the game I could only spend my skill points on the lowest rated skills. And once accepted, you can no longer remove them. A nice principle, but I must say that I declined them more often than I accepted them. Furthermore, the gameplay isn't particularly special and is exactly what you can expect. With plenty of dialogue and choices that, as mentioned, can be truly decisive, but crafting, trading, etc. is all included as well. It's all nothing special or anything, quite standard actually, but again, that is what you can expect from The Outer Worlds 2, which is once again limited in its scope. The game is significantly larger and more extensive than its predecessor, but still very similar in design. The various planets are all open maps, but you still travel from planet to planet through loading screens. So there isn't one big open world, but rather multiple small and open maps that actually still works fine. Partly because the loading times aren't very long, fortunately.
That was fast.
The presentation is what it should be. The game had a great upgrade when it comes to graphics compared to the first installment and in my opinion looks better than Avowed. Whereas in Avowed the world felt a bit basic and sometimes even boring, here they are much more varied. You have of course the standard jungle-like planets and ice planet, but also a kind of rocky planet with all sorts of crystal-like rocks, making it look mostly like a Needler from Halo. It's not exactly groundbreaking when it comes to the graphics, but it does look really good and the style just works.
All of this just works. It's not, I'm not kidding.
In terms of performance, the game does also just what you expect. There are a few oddities here and there, but nothing necessarily game-breaking. Although, sometimes NPCs tend to get in the way in such a manner that you can't get past them. The result? Getting stuck in a room and having to reload the entire game. And otherwise, there is little to criticize regarding the presentation. The audio is cool, with awesome sound effects and cool music that sets the vibe just like BioShock does.
I chose the impossible. I chose rapture.
The menus and fonts also contribute to this, and that style is a huge contrast to the sci-fi setting in the distant future, but no less cool because of it. The voice acting is also very good and it contributes to how well some of the characters are portrayed.
Initiating celebratory cheer. Hooray.
All in all, I think The Outer Worlds 2 is really a fine RPG. Combat is tough sometimes, but the choices, options and consequences the game attaches to it offer an enormous amount of possibilities for multiple playthroughs. The game looks good, and despite the somewhat messy story that I sometimes struggle to follow, The Outer Worlds 2 offered more than enough premise to keep me playing. Yet, a feeling of just not it remains. And I can't quite put my finger on it, but for some reason this game ultimately no longer makes the impact or is the surprise that its predecessor was in late 2019. It is good, but not awesome, even though the game is better than its predecessor in every aspect. I'm afraid that Obsidian simply might have been overtaken by the current zeitgeist. That doesn't make the game any less good, but it does make it less fun than I had hoped for. That is why I give The Outer Worlds 2 an 8. It is a good game, but no longer makes the impact the first Outer Worlds did. And with that, we come to the end of this review. What did you think of The Outer Worlds 2? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you liked the video, that helps my channel immensely. For live gameplay you can check out my Twitch, twitch.tv/gameplayofj, and don't forget to follow me there as well. For more content, check the suggestions on the left or the channel on the right. For now, thanks for watching, see you in the next video, bye!